Happy Thursday. We're sorry we missed last week, but we're happy to be here this week. We're going to be talking about topics that are trending in the news today. I'm joined today by Bruce McClary. I'm Courtney Nagel. We're representatives of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, and we're glad to be here today. How's it going, Bruce?
It's going great. How are you doing, Courtney?
I'm good. You keeping cool? I know it's like a heat wave in Virginia. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. And I know DC is only a couple hours away, so it's been really hot, but I feel like we got a little bit of a break with the storms that rolled through last night and the night before. So how are you holding up?
It's been disgusting hot here in DC. Anybody who's been to Washington DC in the summertime knows exactly what the deal is. It's oppressively hot. The humidity is unbearable. And, it's not the best weather at all. So, it's funny because summer is tourism season. So, we expect people to come here and enjoy the city, but
right.
outside and you start sweating immediately, that kind of takes some of the fun out of your experience. So I guess it's hard on the travel and tourism side to attract people with that kind of experience. But other than that, things are going fine. It's been really busy. A lot going on right now in the news with things moving in the direction of progress with the next round of stimulus and the actions of the CARES Act set to expire. And there's a bunch of other interesting stuff that hit the news, the front pages of the news today that to personal finance. So there's just a ton of stuff to talk about. I don't know, where do we start?
I know there's a lot of speculation of the new stimulus bill.
Mm-hmm.
And what will be included in there. Do you have any thoughts on what will be included or what will not be included? I know you hate these questions. They're the funnest to ask. And I think everybody is interested to kind of hear what's speculated.
Yeah, well, right now, the issue is getting very political and very partisan on both sides. There's a kind of a slugfest going on right now about what's going to be in it, what's not going to be in it. So it's impossible for anyone to predict with any certainty what this thing is going to look like exactly when it comes out of the process. It's never fun to look behind the scenes and see how the sausage is made. That's true with legislation. So, that could lead to even a third round if things don't get put into this round that important and need to be brought back up again. So it's honestly, it's all over the place right now. So it's hard to pin it down. Will there be a stimulus check? Maybe, who qualifies? I have no idea. All of those things. But one of the things that's important, and it was one of the topics that we wanted to talk about today, has to do with housing and rental protections, moratoriums on eviction. And it's really scary when you read about what is possible, what might happen if protections aren't extended, what that might look like in terms of the tidal wave of evictions that could result. It's kind of frightening. It is kind of frightening. And the protections, the moratoriums, the moratoriums protecting renters from eviction are expiring Friday, tomorrow. So, some renters are seriously concerned about what's going to happen if they haven't been able to pay rent during, this period, the past couple of months. What position does that leave them in when it comes to their landlord?
Yeah, I read 1 in 5 renters could face eviction after the moratorium ends. So what tips do you have for them if they are in that bucket?
Well, one of the things that I've said all along throughout this process, even when the eviction protections were in place, is that it's very important to keep an open line of communication with your landlord, document all conversations, let them know what's going on, try to work things out. If you can negotiate anything, try it. anything helps if you're keeping the lines of communication open. Helps you keep a roof over your head and stay in place. And it's not just the renters. I mean, there are two sides to this equation. Landlords are counting on rent as income, and if they're getting that rent, for some landlords, they're in just as bad a situation as their tenant. So they need to find. They're obviously interested in getting that income flow going again. So there's pressure on them as well. And if they see that there's no way to work things out with their tenant, and the best solution is to remove that tenant and try to find somebody who can pay rent, that's, you can expect that a landlord might move in that direction if the conditions allow. It's a very tough situation, but I would say that at the minimum, keep the lines of communication open, and work it from there. And if there are any organizations in your community, charities or nonprofits that are offering rental assistance, it doesn't hurt to reach out and see what kind of resources are available. And you don't have to limit to the nonprofit organizations, the United Ways and the Goodwill and others. If you belong to a community of worship in your city or town, see if they have funds available to help you through hard times. Your church, your mosque, your synagogue. There are all kinds of resources that might be untapped that you may not know about. Everywhere possible if you need to find rental assistance, but the clock is ticking on these protections, and also the unemployment. There's that issue of the CARES Act, the additional amount that was added to unemployment benefits. That's expiring soon as well. So this is a double whammy. Expiring and the benefits of the CARES Act. So if you haven't already started working on trying to negotiate with your landlord, trying to find community resources for rental assistance, find a way to have a soft landing if you are evicted. Start working immediately on all of those things for yourself and for your family. The last thing you want to do is end up in a shelter. A lot of bad conditions in some of the shelters. There could be overcrowding because of the wave of evictions that's about to take place. If is a worst case scenario. So you're doing yourself a favor if you're trying every possible means necessary, and just staying at it.
Yeah, it's really tough to think about like all of these people who it's like a lose-lose situation no matter which role you're in, like as a landlord or as a renter. It's really tough for all of these people.
Yeah, and the other point I want to bring up too about this is there's a flip side to this. So people who are paying their rent on time, you may not be safe either. If the mortgage foreclosure protections either do not cover your landlord, or if when the protections expire through the CARES Act for federally backed mortgages, if they haven't been keeping up their end of the bargain and making mortgage payments on time, you could be in a pretty tough spot as well, even if you're paying your rent on time. So there's a lot to this that could play out very badly for people who are renters.
Yeah. Another thing that's trending in the news today is how that's affecting people right now with the coronavirus is that credit card issuers are lowering or canceling lines of credit. Can you talk a little bit about why this is happening and how that's impacting consumers?
Yeah, so this is interesting. It comes from a Lending Tree report that indicated that 70 million people during the past couple of months have had their credit card limits cut or accounts closed. 7 million people. It's a lot of people. And this is something that is a very unpleasant surprise when it's done involuntarily, when you don't ask for your credit limit to be cut, or when you don't ask for your card to be closed. And it can come very suddenly and unexpectedly because there is no requirement for advanced notification when your credit line is cut. It can be a very unpleasant surprise and it can catch you off guard. all these credit card companies right now are trying to limit their risk. They're looking very closely at accounts that managed, how you're paying, if you're paying on time, if you have a good track record, if you've been leveraging the use of your available lines of credit more frequently than you have in the past. That could be an indicator that you're using available credit to supplement lost income. All kinds of indicators that they're looking at to measure risk, and then they make a determination, should they cut your credit limit or should they close the account altogether. If you have unused accounts, that's really where you're at risk of getting your credit line canceled completely. A lot of people just have extra credit cards sitting out there that they're not using. And so in those cases, in many of those cases, those are the people that have been affected by this in terms of having their cards closed. So yeah, this is just another reason why you should be keeping a very close eye on your account activity, check regularly. At least you can react quickly if something like this happens.
Is this a situation where you would recommend them using the cards that they haven't been using for a while to just kind of get that activity and then pay it off again?
Yeah, so a good strategy is if you think you're at risk of losing an account that you want to keep and it's an unused account, you can take some, if you're set up for any automatic payments, recurring payments, they're all loaded onto one particular card. Maybe you get a lot of reward points on that card or whatever. You may think about moving some of those regularly recurring automated payments off that card and over to your unused card, so you can at least have some activity on it. Keeps it off the radar for account closure.
Okay. What are the consequences for people as they navigate, like it's cutting down their available credit, it's affecting could be affecting credit scores? How can people manage the situation to minimize that negative impact?
Yeah, when you have it, that's a great question, because when your account is closed or when your available credit limit drops, and if you're carrying a balance in either of those situations, what's likely to happen is that your debt ratio is skewed, and it then looks like you're overutilizing your line of credit, and that can have a negative impact on your credit score, and it can be significant depending on your mix of credit and other factors. So if you find yourself suddenly facing a situation where, because your credit limit was lowered, it now looks like your balance is dangerously close to your current credit limit. If you have any other cards where you can move the balances over so that you can cut that debt ratio down a little bit, at least get it inside of that 30% limit, that's your best option. And if you can do that and do that quickly, you may spare yourself the worst consequences of impact on your credit. And then the next strategy is, even if you can do that, is just to start aggressively paying down those balances. Always pay more than the minimum payment. Implement a strategy where you tackle the highest interest rates most aggressively, or whatever strategy works best for you, but clear those balances off the books. Less and more.
Yeah. So the last topic that we saw, it's like everybody is having to order groceries and have them delivered to stay safe. The topic is that Instacart had a data breach. Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, so this is really scary, and this just goes back. It's happened time and time again. There's so many cases of this, but these data breaches are dangerous, and it's a wake-up call for people who their credit card information out there online, whether it's a website, whether it's an app. About 270,000 accounts on Instacart are reported to have been breached. And those accounts, that information, all the personal information of those customers, is apparently out there on the dark web being bought and sold as we're talking right now. That information may include credit card details, numbers, and other important information that can allow people to use those accounts and to commit fraud. So the way that happening is, in most cases, is that you agree to store your credit card information for easy one-click purchases in the future. And always said this over and over again when talking about these situations. Don't store your information, no matter how convenient it may be. Don't store your credit card information on apps or on these websites so you can do the one-click purchasing. Once that gets on somebody else's server, once that gets into somebody else's database, you're at the mercy of their security and how they can safeguard your information. If you don't know how much they're doing to safeguard your information and how it's being protected, you're really throwing caution to the wind. And then you better be prepared to react quickly when your information does get out there, because the likelihood of it happening seems to be growing every year as these hackers get more sophisticated in what they're doing.
Yeah, what should people do if they think they've been affected, or how can they find out if they were?
Well, monitor your credit activity, and honestly, if you want to be safe and you want to be proactive about this, just assume that if you've stored your information on this particular platform, if you stored your credit card information and they're keeping it, that you may have been a victim already. 270,000, just a little bit over 270,000 people doesn't sound like it's everybody who uses this service, but you don't know until you know. And if if they haven't notified you already, don't take that to mean that you're not a victim. So monitor credit activity very closely. Contact your credit card company and let them know that you're concerned that you may be a victim here. Some solutions, they may reissue a new card. So that can be a pain sometimes, because if you have your credit card automatically billed in a number of different areas, that means you're going to have to work the emails, get online, and start updating that information with everybody else, and that can take some time. But be safe than sorry. I'd rather take a few hours and do all of that, wonder when somebody's going to start placing fraudulent charges on my credit card account.
Right.
And the other risk is here that they may use your personal information to open new lines of credit. So it's very important for you to monitor your credit regularly. You can do it weekly for free if you go to annualcreditreport.com. That's the service that's available through the three major credit reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. That benefit is available through next April, and that weekly access to a free credit report was put in place because of COVID-19, but it comes in real handy right now. You can do your own free credit monitoring. So that's what people can do to react right now, and just to stay vigilant and stay on guard.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Bruce.
Well, and the other thing I would just implore people to do too is that, again, if you want to be proactive and you don't want to be a victim in these data breaches, just going back to what I said before, please do not store your credit card information on somebody's website, on an app. Better to take the extra steps and manually enter it each time you make a purchase. I know that can be a pain for some people too, but honestly, it's just a few extra seconds that you have to type some of the information in to make your purchase. Better to be safe than sorry. So, and if you have your information stored somewhere, deactivate that, get rid of that information, delete those accounts from their servers, at least to try to minimize risk. Don't leave your information out there if you don't know where it's being stored and how it's being protected.
Yeah, you're making me feel like I have some homework to go do. Like, I'm not sure where my stuff is stored at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit of homework, but again, just a few extra steps can make you sleep a little bit better at night.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Bruce. I think that's it for today. But we hope you stay healthy and you're staying safe.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks.